Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts. And today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Dr. Robb Kelly. Dr. Robb Kelly rewires brains from addiction and trauma. Dr. Robb Kelly, PhD, is a sought-after recovery expert who believes in treating the causes of addiction and not the symptoms. Dr. Kelly has appeared on such shows as The Doctors, Eye Opener, Good Morning Texas, and Ken S5 Morning News. Dr. Robb is a frequent contributor to radio and print interviews, including The Jim Bohannon Show, Miracles in Recovery, USA Today, and he has participated in McLean's Hospital's Harvard Medical School study on the stigma associated with mental illness. Dr. Kelly hosted Sober Celeb Show on KLIF Radio in Dallas and currently hosts a Breaking Through Addiction podcast featuring special guests discussing a variety of mental health issues. Dr. Robb, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Dave. Great to be here. Great to be here.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Stephanie Carmody. I was on Stephanie's podcast, Second Chance Sessions, and I had her on my podcast. And after our discussion, she said, I got to hook you up with Dr. Robb. So she connected me with your wonderful media person, Courtney, and Courtney helped set up the arrangements to get us to this point today. So
excellent. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie. So Dr. Robb, my first question is tell our audience about the experiences that have shaped your life path and your life passions today.
Born into an alcoholic family. We believe alcoholics are born, drugs and made. And we'll get into that shortly. It confuses people. Took my first drink at the age of 9 years old on stage with my musical family. I played bass guitar. Grew up on the projects. Very low income. My mum cleaned other people's houses and my dad worked for the gas company, dig the roads to put them huge pipes down. I grew up on the projects and learned how to fight at an early age, of course, being in a real horrible area. I went to normal school. Took my first drink, like I said, so drinking every weekend. I have an alcoholic brain, which basically means I'm going to do something or I'm not going to touch it. I don't do half measures. So when I opened my British restaurant in Texas next door to my office, people thought I was insane. But I had to do stuff or I don't. And that's kind of been my MO throughout my life. There was homelessness, loss of children, horrible things that happen, and stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. Just crazy, insane stuff that I went through. I lost everything, became homeless, died twice on the streets in Manchester, England. The medics brought me back to life, and I hated those people for that because I just wanted to die. Cried myself to sleep every night on the streets, just drunk every single day. Managed to get off the streets by a spiritual awakening. Came to America 20 years ago for 3 weeks only, just to do a seminar with drug addicts and alcoholics. Then decided to stay. And 20 years has been like crazy in Dallas, Texas. And then about 10 years ago, I met my wife. And we moved back to San Antonio 4 years ago to be with her family. And here we are today, the Robb Kelly Group. I own 4 businesses, the Robb Kelly Group, the Old English Tea Shop, Breadbox, and a non-profit that we own. And we're living the dream.
Yeah, that's quite a progression from really being going from the depths of despair to where you are today. You said there was a history of alcoholism in your family. Am I correct?
Yeah, correct. So mom, dad's brother, so uncles, aunties, cousins, most of them died from alcoholism.
How much with the individuals that you serve, how much is generational trauma an issue that you need to deal with and help to rewire, so to speak?
100%. So his discovery found out using the neuroscience that we've been studying for 10 years before it was called neuroscience. Is because of my own suffering, I knew that the brain, to be told just stop drinking for your kids, I knew there was something different, and I knew there was something deeper to the mind and the brain. So it threw me into 25 years of intense work, experiments, trial, tests. And what we found out is everybody suffers from childhood trauma. The worst people that suffer from childhood trauma don't know they had childhood trauma because the subconscious brain blocks that off to stop us going insane. But everybody has to some kind of degree. What we have to do is go back and recover, discover, discard of that trauma. And we use lots of techniques that we use, some software, we use brain spotting, somatic theories, NLP, subliminal messaging to bring that out and clear that up. Because the only way you'd know is if your life's not going great today, if you can't keep a girlfriend, boyfriend, a job, you can't get ahead, you live in paycheck to pay, all these stuff goes right back to childhood trauma and behavioral. So we cut the up so measurement and behavioral science covers if your dad was a gas worker, then you're probably going to be a gas worker or a mechanic. And we learn our traits from parents and caregivers. The problem is, in my day, I'm 65, so you can imagine going back to the 60s and 70s, any abuse that happened, either verbally, sexually, was kind of covered up because it was normalized back in the day. So when people look at trauma now and go, well, I've never been in a car crash or did what, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the stuff that you can't remember or the stuff you're going to take to the grave with you or behavior. See, when my priest molested me on several occasions, I told my mother and she hit me with a wooden shoe so many times around the backside and sent me up to bed. What that told me is, first of all, I'd never to talk about that ever again, but it also affected my relationships going forward, my sexual activity around that. It affected me and I wasn't normal, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So when we did our research, we go back and we look at, and the saying we came up with, first of all, made everybody mad, asked me about care, is anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. We have to think about that. We don't get to nurture today. Kids that all upstairs on the PlayStations and the computers and the phones. We don't tie them up with our children. There's lots that do. I'm just saying what we've seen in general. And my answer is always the same. Show us a kid that comes home at 4 o'clock and spends 6 hours on his computer games, and I'll show you a future ideas.
Well, and the thing is early experience matters. And the nature of the attachments and the strength of the attachments that we build in early childhood are so key. And if that attachment bond is compromised because of unhealthy dynamics, addictive parents, that unless that narrative is reframed, that has to impact relationships going forward. It has to impact an individual's ability to trust, to develop intimacy. And I would imagine there's probably an element of self-sabotage if they do get into a relationship where they're loved unconditionally. I imagine they would also have trouble questioning that because of the existing beliefs that they brought into that relationship that, makes self-sabotage probably a viable option, particularly when things are going too well.
Yeah. So say a 5, 6, 7-year-old girl is growing up in an alcoholic, violent house. She sees dad on several occasions during the week, coming home drunk, and him and mom getting into a physical fist fight. The next morning when they all get up, mom goes, I love you. And dad goes, oh, I love you too. I'm sorry about that. What does the child learn? That violence equals love. So if she finally leaves the house and goes to college or school or a job, she will 100% attract the same guy that ends up beating her and possibly drug or alcoholic. To the fact, like you just said, Dave, if they meet a nice guy, they're going to self-sabotage it because it doesn't feel, it's not love. It's like, waiting for the other shoe to drop and we come away from that relationship.
Yeah. In what seems like a past lifetime ago, I used to be an addictions counselor and a clinical supervisor. And I used to see that pattern all the time with clients that I worked with individually. And also, the people that I supervised would bring the same issues to me in supervision about clients who are self-sabotaging, particularly when things are going well, or questioning if they deserve to be doing well based on past history.
Yeah, it's that. We're all in patterns within our lives, and most of us don't realize we're in patterns, either good or self-sabotage pattern. But it all comes down to the childhood. We are taught by our parents or caregivers to talk, walk, feel at an early age. For instance, if a toddler is in the kitchen and mom says, "Don't touch the stove, it's hot, it'll burn you," and we're having to touch the stove and it's hot and it burns us, what does the child learn straight away? Whatever mom says is true, which turns into whatever people say is true. And then obviously as we grow older and older, we find out that's not the case. My mom and dad used to drop me off at their friends every Friday night while they went out drinking. There were several kids that stayed there. The couple used to stay on Friday, take the kids in, look after them. The moment my mom and dad reversed out the driveway, all of our kids had to play the game, run around naked game, which meant that all the kids had to take their clothes off and run around while the adults chased us and tickled us. I didn't know that was child abuse and sexual. I didn't know anything about that because they normalized it. When somebody without help, you can't do this on your own, the life's not going well, you can't go back and uncover that stuff because it's normalized. And if you do, then the subconscious brain traps that and doesn't let it go any further. That's why brain spotting is prevalent in what we do. And if you want to change behavior, you have to change patterns in your life. Alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, and the same with drugs, sex, do. But it's not the problem. It's just a symptom that adds to the problem. And you never had a drinking problem, Dave. I had a thinking problem. So when we researched that, we found out the big truth about the hypothalamus that nobody knew and still refused to believe today. It's like there's an answer for everything we need. Every illness in the human body comes down to two things. What am I deficient in? And toxicity, what am I being poisoned? When you look at the food industry today, 9% of stuff we buy from the supermarket or store is full of rancid oils, it's poisonous. We need to look at that because it does affect addiction. It does affect your health. There's crazy things around us that's happening. The patterning that we get into is just insane.
Well, you mentioned food too. I mean, I work with a shamanistic holistic practitioner. I've been her client for over 5 or 6 years. And she did a kinesiology experiment with me where she put certain food items in my hands. And the food items that were more toxic to my individual body chemistry, you could see literally, Dr. Robb, my arm drop. And what we put into our bodies dictates how we feel and also dictates, I believe, our chances at embracing sober living and healthy living.
I mean, I can't agree with you more. So again, everything I say in this conversation is tried and tested or researched by ourselves, spent over $1.5 million on research. And it goes like this today, especially with depression and everything. We did a piece on TV the other day. It's a very well-known health bar, like a muesli bar. And it had 9 grams of protein and 0 fat on the front of it, big letters. And we picked it up and the first ingredient was canola oil. When we eat stuff or anything, the body doesn't use it in the source that we're eating it. It has to be methylated into a source that the body can use. Well, 90% of the stuff that we think is healthy for us, the body can't methylate. So when we eat this stuff, because it can't methylate, there becomes a deficiency in the body. The deficiency causes the heart, the lung, any illnesses that is deficient, or we're being poisoned by something. I mean, there's a bunch of things out there we see regularly on a daily basis where we're being poisoned. So then you look with a microscope at the food that they're eating and it's there. It's there. And because it's such a minuscule amount, the FDA goes, "Oh yeah, we're good here." We're not good here, guys. We really have to take our health back. I want to tell you something now that, again, people might, I don't know, the food industry gets us sick, unfortunately. The pharmaceutical keep us sick, unfortunately. Well, that can't be true, Dr. Robb. How many people have gone to the doctors with an ailment, got a pill for the depression or whatever, took the pill, cured the illness, never take the pill again? Nobody has done that unless it's like an antibiotic for something that you've got. Nobody does. Depression meds don't work, and I'll tell you why. We have people coming in here almost on a daily basis, Dr. Robb, I'm so depressed. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith. How has it been going on for? 5 years. You've been chronically depressed for 5 years? Yeah. I'm so sorry about that. Do you take medication for that? Yeah. What do you take? I take Wellbutrin. How long have you taken Wellbutrin? About 3 years now. When did you think it was going to kick in? Because it hasn't kicked in yet. Yet you're still taking the medication, but you're still chronically, but you might get clinically depressed. What's going on? And that's what happens in the world. We follow this routine. I get sick, I go to the doctor, whatever it gives me, I take. And as soon as you start taking anything that's foreign, any pharmaceutical drugs and some vitamins as well, it's detrimental to the body and the brain.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Dr. Robb, that I understood, and I was reading, this was a long time ago, that about 50 to 80% of general practitioners don't get mental health diagnosis correct. And if you use depression as an example, what tends to happen, I believe, is that the person comes in with the presenting problem. I'm depressed. The doctor stops the assessment right there and doesn't assess for mood disorder, because depression could be just part of a bipolar disorder, whatever type you're dealing with. But the bottom line is that if you prescribe that person with a serotonin or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor or something like Prozac or Zoloft, and that person's bipolar, that person's going to become more manic. And if you're talking about throwing alcoholism in the mix, that's got to throw even more chaos in the system. And long term, I would imagine it would probably be a relapse trigger if it wasn't addressed.
100%. And we've been given a drug that supposedly fixes 20 ailments. You know, there's something wrong. Okay. Yeah. So let's look at depression. If you look in the USA Medical Dictionary, depression says a few words. Serotonin deficiency. Why are we not asking ourselves why my serotonin is low in the first place before we go to the doctor? Number one. Number two is there are 4 chemicals every day that people know: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine that need to happen in the brain every day to make us productive and happy. But what people don't know, or very few people, is the big ones, the serotonin and dopamine, are created in the stomach. So if we're not eating, not methylating the right food, that adds to the depression, because now I have only 2 chemicals that's going. But people, so what I eat matters? It matters. It really does matter. I'm not saying everybody go to Whole Foods or pay a fortune for this and this. You need to just look. If we go into a supermarket right now and we walk down the aisle of a breakfast cereal aisle, I can show you, if you're getting a breakfast cereal for your kids and it's a name brand, it's toxic. There's probably one breakfast cereal in all them 60 breakfast cereals on show that can actually not make you sick, and it's hidden at the back somewhere. You pick any brand name in anything and look at the ingredients. You look, what's the worst thing I could eat? Well, McDonald's French fries. Okay, let's stick that for a second. In England, and I'm American, I have a British accent. I came over here. I'm American. I'm a citizen. I don't give a crap about England anymore. God bless you guys. I'm American. But you can't miss the fact that McDonald's fries in England have 3 ingredients in it. McDonald's fries in America has 19 ingredients. What have they ever 16 ingredients in it? And all the oils, rancid oils, all this stuff to preserve the food so that when you take it home, if you don't believe it, guys, go to McDonald's now. Anything with fries, stick it in the cupboard, not the fridge, the cupboard, where things go up quicker, and revisit in 6 months' time. And you'll see it's exactly the same as you put it in. Then take that McDonald's food, take it to the garden or the yard, open it up. Not one wiggle or roots will go nowhere near it because it's fake food.
Yeah. And you're just taking toxic chemicals into your system.
And then we wonder why we're getting sick. If there's any rancid oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, especially if it's the first ingredient, put it back, guys. You're eating clothing, you're not eating food.
Yeah. And my supervisor used to say, you are what you eat. And there's a lot of truth to that.
I love that. It is. We're only finding out now because go back to the 60s and 70s and we were eating real food. And nobody was obese. If you look at old films, very rarely did you see anybody obese. Not the case today. But back in the day, they were eating, and you just got to look at the eating. how can McDonald's serve, and I'm making it up because I've seen it somewhere, let's say 60 million hamburgers or beef burgers are created a day. We don't have 60 million cans. Where's it coming from? Oh, probably 1% is beef. The rest, I don't know, man. Do your research. I've done mine. But, we're a sticker nation and we don't need to be. I like to gather breadcrumb in this world. People are telling the truth, scorned and ridiculed. When I first came to America, they stripped me of my license to practice because I'd said I was teaching voodoo stuff to people. I'd lecture to those guys today. What kind of world are we in when you stand up and go, this is not true against the pharmaceutical or food industry? You're ridiculed. The first form of less belief with the public is ridicule the person. That's all he's going to do. He's a quack. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's only a chiropractor, and yet his research is just like mine. He's one of my close friends. And we research together, but stop believing in hype and look at the facts. Look at what we drink. Look at what we eat. Look at the exercise rules, 20 minutes a day. Look at the lifting rules, 10 minutes a day. We need to lift something that's heavier than us.
Yeah. And, I think anybody that stands in their truth and wears their beliefs on their sleeve, particularly if it goes against the status quo, become a target anyway. But if you got facts backing up what you're saying, it's hard to dispute that.
And it's out there, Dave. We don't say, because I'm so controversial to a certain degree, we don't say or do anything unless we've researched it thoroughly ourselves. So let's talk about the behavior from our parents. And we've heard of this before, but we got 1,000 trees and we stuck them in a huge mason jar. We screwed the top on. And we punched holes in it. We left them for 3 days only. Now, fleas can jump 4 or 5 feet in the air. When we took the cap off, not one flea jumped higher than where the cap was, which was interesting. But what was mind-blowing is when they had babies in that jar, the babies would jump higher than where the cap was, and they'd never even seen the cap. So we see repeated dysfunction of families repeating that pattern. Well, you see it in AA all the time. That's what my sponsor told me, doesn't make it the truth. He's what Egypt doesn't make it the truth. It's our responsibility to research everything about how we can extend our health. Including both of us losing weight. And we're both happier and we both feel great and don't have to out of breath when I'm tying my shoelace. But I came over here 20 years ago and the same thing that my diet didn't change, but it was the stuff inside the food I was eating. When you're putting steroid-like injections into everything I eat, including the steaks, I'm going to start putting weight on. Not eat it anymore. It's the quality of food or poisons with different way today, Dave. This went over here instead. We're just going to go over there. Now we've got over there.
Yeah. Yep. I gotta ask you a question. I know you do a lot with your clients in the Robb Kelly recovery group, a neurolinguistic program, somatic experience techniques, behavior observation. First of all, how does that specifically help to promote positive thinking? What does the research indicate in terms of the recovery, the success rates of these techniques, as opposed to, let's say, evidence-based therapies that I was brought up with like cognitive behavioral therapy and relapse prevention planning? So could you touch on that a little bit first, Dr. Robb?
What we have to look at is the brain and the mind itself. So the mind is power energy. You can't see it, touch it, but it does sit inside the brain, hence the say mind over matter. So what happens in the morning is between the hours of probably 2 and 5, an hour either way, on a normal circadian sleep pattern, it's when the body is in repair. It's when most people have neutral cause as well, because the oxygen is low while repairing. When we wake up, one of the reasons nobody woke up laughing is lack of oxygen. So our oxygen is very low. Guess what? The subconscious brain thrives in hypoxic situations. If you ever done something negative because we need the oxygen, but the subconscious brain doesn't need that to survive anymore. Now, the conscious brain needs oxygen like crazy. It thrives when it's oxygenated. So wake up in the morning, if we do our breath work, which is 20 exaggerated breaths in and out to start influencing the conscious brain. So the subconscious brain wakes us up. Once we get rid of that guy first, remember, which we can, this guy's running the show. But the subconscious brain is doing this all day long, looking for something like a 5-minute event to spread out all the day. Oh, I had a really bad day today, Dr. Robb. Have you? It was 5 minutes, you strung out all day. So we have to look at the mind. How can we program the mind to have a great day every day? They're the tactics we use. So talk therapy is amazing. The old school stuff is amazing. But we're kind of more neuroscientists than we are that. What do we know today? And how can we change patterns? So there's 300 neural pathways die each day inside the brain. There are billions, but 300-ish die every day. What are you replacing them with? Are you replacing them with the same patterns, the same past trauma, and expect to change? No, you can't do that. So you have to be changing patterns all the time. Lots of subliminal chats every day. Subliminal therapy is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen for changing the brain, because when we tell our patients to do something, the brain goes, not going to do it. But if you put it in a way like subliminal messages, NLP, that you're planting stuff. So when you come, you make a phone call here. Yeah, like you're Dr. Long. So you have to pass an assessment before we check you on. That's why the success rate is 98%. Or one of those. It's also still at the families. You come in from your first appointment, after the assessment you pass. You come in, from the minute you step out of your car, in the car park outside, there are subliminal messages all over. So we had a Dallas Cowboys fan some years ago. Been everywhere, tried everything, depressed and alcoholic, can't change patterns. When he got out of the car, there was a Dallas Cowboy candy locked in the hedge. He didn't see it, but the conscious brain or the subconscious brain have seen it in the peripheral. He gets in, goes wearing his Dallas Cowboy sweatshirt, nice and casual. Doesn't see it, but he sees it. He sits down, truth story, he sits down. There's a 1980s Super Bowl game where the Cowboys won, or was it the 80s? So by the time he gets in the office, I hate to use this word, but it's hot, brainwashed anyway. So he's going to believe everything you said because it feels a familiar environment, as if we're all friends, and he not even notice that we've been doing that stuff. So subliminal work, number one, we have a new software called BritBox that realize pathways and read patterns pathways, these headphones and alignments and blackout masks, and it restructures. And we've seen that affecting everybody. What we are not is a regular clinic. We are not. We're neuroscientists. We're always looking for the next amazing thing to come on that we can research and then we can put into our company as part of the journey. And this comes down from me losing him. My children, my two babies, homelessness. It's like, why can't you tell me why I can't stop drinking? Well, just go to AA. Did that, didn't work. What else did he go? Well, just stop because you took, did that, didn't work. Why is it that I can't stop drinking despite my children, my welfare, my wife, my family? Why can I not stop drinking when the thought hits me? And nobody ever answered it. And I was so angry when it came off the streets and disgusted with the medical fraternity. So I'm not bashing the medical fraternity, guys. You can't go Google a third leading cause of death in the US. Go Google it and you'll be astounded when you see it. You just got to be smart, guys. But that's what we do. It's only 1 hour a day, but you have certain things to do during the day that you have to do. But we will go to any lengths to make sure that you succeed. So when we do the assessment and the subliminal on the first and carries on, the success rate goes up by about 29, 30%. We know this for a fact. Now, when you go into treatment, we have family again. When the family come over to the treatment center and they take part in dead recovery, and what that looks like is, Dad used to do this, and if he did, he gets drunk every night, and we need to, no, stop. That's not right. When we take, so let's say a guy comes in, the wife needs to come up for 2 days a week. If she doesn't, we will not take the patient. Because when the wife and anybody over the age of 18, children-wise, are involved in their stuff, because they get on, okay, let me tell you about you. No, this is about you. What? It's all his. I've got nothing. Really? You're not suffering from PTSD? No. Why do you allow your husband to come home a couple of times a night and physically punch you in front of the children? Can you? And cheers down. So what have we done around that? Well, we tested, I think it was 2010, I can't remember, it's like in Dallas, people, the wives, in an alcoholic violent house, and we tested 10 soldiers coming back from Afghanistan that stayed addiction, and the PTSD levels were exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, alcoholism is a family disease. It affects the family. The family adjusts to the dance of the alcoholic in that family, and they develop specific roles and coping mechanisms to insulate themselves and survive. And yeah, I mean, the impact that it has on a family is profound, which is why we call it. Back in the day when I was an alcoholism counselor, an addictions counselor, we called it a family disease, and we invited the family in for treatment for family weekends, for family sessions, because you have to treat that aspect of it. It's a far-reaching disease that goes beyond the individual.
But when we involve the family, the success rate not like 42%.
Yeah.
Oh, we're already in 70% because of the alcohol. Again, so it's like having two houses. There's where the alcoholic lives with the family. Because recovery has its own language, as you know, Dave. Let's say this is the English speaking. We pick him up, we take him out of the environment, we put him in a treatment house, and let's say speaking German, because recovery has its own language. We keep him there for 90 days. We pick now the fluent German patient up, and we take him back and stick him into an English speaking house. Have a guess with you. It's because the people around us are more influential on one person than the other way around. How do we know this? Oh, we did our testing. How easy is it for 9 people to affect one and not the other way around? So we had 9 actors in our waiting room, and they were told to come in, sit down as if they were patients. They would be called in one by one. And one patient who came on and thought she was doing 3 sessions, okay, which later she did, and we explained. 45 seconds dish. They were told the buzzer would sound. When the buzzer sounds, stand up. 5 seconds, or sit down again and keep doing it until they call you in. The stage is set. You want the patient sit down. She went phone. Buzzer away. People stand up. Closely watching her, she looked at her phone, carried on back quick. So now we're almost 2 minutes in. And people stand up. Now she puts her phone down and she's looking around at these people, thinking they're insane or something. Sits down. And if they're, as she stood up with everybody else. Now, what was amazing was, as we call the patients in one by one, and she was left in her waiting room on her own, she started up. So people around you matter when it comes to any kind of mental ailment. I hate to call it an illness because you can get over it. You can cure addiction, stop spending meth. You can't cure alcoholism because of the hypothalamus and the predisposition, the allergy towards ethanol, alcohol, but the rest we can. So who is show me friends, I'll show me the future. Who we surround ourselves with. If you're living around doing depressed people, you will become intense. So we're careful who we let these guys in the room.
Yep.
It's about immediately we change that meeting to positive people around you because it really matters. It's the mirroring part of the brain you pick up and feed, especially the mind with power and energy, feeds of what people's around you. And I did the same. I had a girl, friends, beautiful girl, Mike loved that. And we used to go to AAs together. And she would say, shut up. And I'm like, Colleen, will you stop saying that? You sound like a kid. I was only even around with her for 4 weeks then, and one day I said, shut up, all right. We are the people we hang around.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, which is one of the things when I was an addictions professional, we were always concerned about the environment that we were going to go back into. And it was all about people, places, and things. So, I mean, we could do the work to lay the groundwork for embracing sober living, but if they're going to go back into an environment that was going to just reinforce what we were trying, the opposite of what we were trying to instill, it's just going to defeat the purpose. So where they go back to, and I think in addition to the work that you do in terms of helping individuals reframe their thinking through the techniques that you use with neurolinguistic programming and the like, is key. It's about that interaction of environment and what we have genetically endowed to us. So, and I've always been a firm believer that genetics and environment kind of interact anyway to determine behavioral outcomes.
Yeah, we've proven that several times, well, hundreds, thousands of times. I'm about 11,000 something patients over the 25 years I've been doing this. And like you said, there's tons in the comments, the same old story, but not the same end result. Because unfortunately, you look at AA, it's amazing. The big book is the most sophisticated literature I've ever read about alcoholism. Ever read, okay? But you look at some of the meetings you go to, some are good, some are bad. They sit, you just got to be careful. And you got to look who's around you. And you've got to look at the epigenetics in the family and all these things that nothing to do with addiction. It's kind of 65% to do with addiction. Why are you taking that in? And before people, because I know they're wondering, we first study alcoholics are born drug addicts in May. And look at it, 93% of people that come here with a chronic alcohol drug addiction, cocaine, heroin, died in a doctor's office. So they was probably addictive personality, which shows the same, feels the same, looks the same to the lane. Now, why are alcoholics born? Alcoholics and addicts out there will understand this. So let's look at the basal ganglia. That's how repetition, strength, and confirms part of the brain. If I want to drive a car, I have to do it often enough that it becomes easy and second nature. Once you pass your test, you don't have to worry about it. Wake your mom, switch the girlfriend, list the radio, and reverse at the same time. Because that happens, they come all working part of the brain. If you can imagine a clock, so we're looping so many times, I had at least 10,000 of these to be able to fly a commercial jet with his eyes closed. This is what happens to the alcoholic. 12 o'clock, everything's going good. For whatever reason that we can think of. And by the way, when he picks up the drink at 10 after the hour, the relapse has happened a week ago. So the alcoholics way before that when something has changed. 20 after, we're out on a bender, we can't get any help. It's 5:30, we try and get sober. The wife lets us back in the house. The kids are happy. Everything's going great. At 22, something amazing happens, like that job interview you've always wished, and it was self-sabotage. The hypothalamus is our survival part of the brain, temperature stuff. But what it does with alcoholics only is amazing, and this is why it's a disease, okay? The hypothalamus is the survival part of the brain, tells people to eat and drink water to survive. You don't have to think about it, we just simply do it, or we're going to do it. With alcoholics, at some period during the drinking spree, or for me, it was a job, so the alcoholic journey of getting worse and worse and worse. The hypothalamus hijacks the brain and the prefrontal cortex, and it tells us to drink alcohol only. That's why we can go days or weeks without food or water, and our children, that way our staunch protectors are, doesn't make any difference, because our prefrontal cortex is telling me, if you don't get alcohol inside your body, you're going to die.
And that's why the majority of the energy is around making sure they have alcohol to sustain themselves and to survive. So I want to ask you a question. This is a totally different track, but I wanted to ask you this. I'm just curious to know your thoughts on the DSM-5's decision to kind of refer to alcohol and other drug dependence as substance use disorders.
This is where it splits for me from alcohol and drugs. Here's what I've always had about. They come up with an order, and they come up with a group, and they come up with their medications, Suboxone, and then there's anti-abuse and stuff like that. Anti-abuse does not work on the real alcoholic. Bypasses and prefrontal cortex. Now, with non-alcoholics, which most people are non-alcoholics are called alcoholics. Jimmy around the corner, he drinks a bottle a day, he's an alcoholic. The truth is that alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. And DWIs does not make you an alcoholic. So the medical fraternity and the doctors got to show something. So they start mixing and match this stuff and swapping the labels of it. And now I don't know why. It's plain and simple. So me personally, we don't mix with other people outside in the addiction industry. We just don't. We have our own beliefs. We have our own trials and tests. We have our own research. We have our own success rate. We have 5 bucks around the world. People ask us to come and see, go there. No, we don't do that. We stick to our arms. But now the government are on this, let's put loads of money into addiction treatment centers. And that's good, but you ain't going to solve the problem if you don't know what the problem is.
Exactly. If you're just treating, like you said, symptoms and not looking at the root causes, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And I'm a firm believer. I mean, if I had a nickel for every miracle medication, Dr. Robb, that came across the pike, I'd be a rich man. And here's my belief about medications. It may stabilize some of those symptoms, but it's not a substitute for doing the necessary work that you need to do to reframe your life. It doesn't.
I'm loving tapers. If somebody comes to Suboxone and want a taper, 1 to 3 months, great, let's use it 100%. But if you're on Suboxone a year after, stop trying to convince them that you're sober, because you're not.
No.
Doesn't vex head. California sober. If you're a real alcoholic, doesn't come in. If you are not an alcoholic, but you abuse alcohol, brilliant. Have a few drinks, have a few smokes, whatever, you're great. But we're talking about the millions of people that have died around the world and millions and millions and millions of people going back because you can't stop drinking. We're in a different ballgame. We're in it. What else is going on that we don't know about? Because when you go into normal treatment centers out there and they die of a success rate of 6 to 7 or 8 or 10%, I don't get it. Can you imagine me and you, Dave, going for a heart operation? And just before we go down, the surgeon comes there and says, hey, everything's going to be okay. I've got 8% success rate. You would be out of that bed as quick as you can think. But nobody cares about alcoholic and drugs. Why? Because there's no money in it. Yep. If they can't prescribe a pill or stick it away for a period of time with a heavy price tag, the insurance companies are backed out of that. Their thought of why should we pay for Johnny's 10th trip to treatment? It's obviously not working, but why do we keep paying it? And then the industry come down from a 90-day cover to a 60-day cover to a 30-day cover. They're sick and tired of that. What's the first thing that a treats? And there are some amazing ones. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm just talking about the 90% that are not. We call them up right now live on this podcast. I'm suffering from alcohol. Yeah, no problems. Can I get your insurance details? Not what you're going through, what's happening in your family, how long you were drinking, as it would. They want to know if they can get you in and they can get money up the insurance. And that's what I was disgusted with. And that's why we called away. It's like, I'm not going to jump in that arena, guys. I'm sick to death of watching people die. Inside and outside treatment centers, AA, I'm sick to death of people dying because of a lack of knowledge about what they're suffering from. And I'm aggressive if I need to be at fighting with your disease. I do whatever it takes. And so will all of my team. But we're not going to sit there and watch you die because you believe that AA told you that this. Now, you go back to the book, they were talking about a psychic change, psychic mind change of mind. Now it's called neuroplasticity. But these guys were writing this in 1938. So the answers have always been there, but nobody's touching it. What's the point in getting you clean and sober? And out there's a predictive. No, there's no point in that. Let's keep you sick. Take this, take that. You are eye combobulation, being disease. Well, this medication, ask your doctor. What? I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're a society that's medication abundant. You take a pill and it solves everything, but it doesn't.
And it doesn't have to be. When we start questioning the people that are telling us this, when we start questioning people around us, let's live in every day the best life and happy every single day. Oh, that's so we can't be happy every day. Says who? Who's teaching you, your mentor? Because my mentor says, well, I don't, there's something wrong. In actual fact, he says, if you get up in the morning and you're not happy and ready for the day, go drink, Rob. And I agree with it. It's not about me and you with this podcast thing. The question I ask, the host that's changing the world every time, is how many lives can we save today? Because if one person hears this, and we might be controversial, the truth, by the way. I get a lot of naysayers that want to not true. Go prove it. And go prove it. And go prove it. We're privileged today to work with the FBI. We're privileged to work with the government. We're privileged to work with movie stars. We're privileged. All these guys. But before I go any further, I have to say we have a sliding scale and 25% of our work is program.
And I think that's great because one of the things I've always really been concerned with is the resource issue. There's always been more individuals with alcoholism and other drug addiction that have needed services and resources to provide it. And one of the barriers is cost. And if you can offer that sliding fee scale and do 25% of your work pro bono, you're going to help more people. And that's what it's about. It's about being in service and helping those individuals as a result of our own challenges. And I've learned that as I've gotten older as well, too. But Dr. Robb, you've left us with so much good stuff today, and I got a couple more questions for you before we wrap up. The first question is, if you're going to leave our listeners with one ultimate takeaway or teaching today, what would that be?
True story. Guy gets up in the morning, his apartment, washed up Golden Gate Bridge, struggles have probably been suicide. The police pull him out of the wars, and his ID go back to his apartment, looking for next of kin. What they found is a letter, and it read, "I'm going to watch the Golden Gate Bridge, which is an hour's walk on the way, guys. I'm going to throw myself up, commit suicide, or unless somebody smiles at me, nods at me, says good morning, winks at me, any kind of thing, I'll stop right there and I'll go back to the apartment and I'll try again tomorrow. Question: how many people have you walked past today that's heading to the Golden Gate Bridge? You never know. Your word could save a life. And if you don't think this is possible, next time you're in a built-up area of people, watch for somebody coming towards you with nice sneakers. And I want to say two more things. Nice sneakers. He's going to go, oh, thank you, man. Watch you walk away. Then look down at his sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. He just changed his word. But guess what? When it goes on to the wife or girlfriend, because he's in a good mood, to behavioral science, now she's in a good mood. Then the mother-in-law calls and you get reduced. You as a person who's listening right now could choose the world. That's all it takes. Everybody's going through something. Everybody's going through something that you don't know about. When I sit next to strangers, I ask them a simple question. What have you gotten through that nobody knows? And it keeps you awake at night. And not one person has ever said nothing.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, just the littlest gesture could save a life. Holding a door open for somebody, smiling at somebody. If they dropped a bag of groceries, picking that up, helping them. Just those little things, because we never know what somebody else is going through. Especially in the classroom, I don't know what my students are going through from minute to minute. I try to create an atmosphere that's safe, that's welcoming. So for 90 minutes or however long they have me, they can be who they want to be without worrying about the outside world. And if that can make a difference in somebody's well-being, then I've done my job as a teacher. So, Dr. Robb, my last question for you is, people want to get in touch with you, find out more about your research, find out more about your services. What's the best way for them to do that?
So if you're listening, guys, not watching, spell my name with 2 B's, ROBBKELLY.com is the website. Jump on there. All social medias are on there. Jump on, say hi. We have breakbooks on there. You find out about our software that changes grades. It can be done online, foundation, all there. But only for people that are changing the world like you, Dave, I offer this. This is the last thing my daughter said to me when the authorities took them off me. That was 30 years ago. Daddy, please stop drinking. She said, oh. Only 4 years ago did she get in contact with me. I went over there the next day. I missed 30 years of her life. She opened the door. We hugged, we cried. She took me by my right hand. She walked me into her living room, and she handed me my granddaughter. This girl is my lead therapist in the office. Let's get $10 away, guys. Mention Dave or come for me on the website and send a message. I'll sign it, especially for you. I'll pay the sugar and everything. I'll send it to you on one condition. And pass it on to somebody else when you finish.
You got it. I'll make sure all of that, all of your contact information, everything that we've talked to you related to that gets into the episode notes when our episode goes live. Dr. Robb, thank you so much for just a great conversation. Thank you for spending time with me and my audience today. I hope we can have future conversations.
Thank you, Dan. It's a privilege.
And with that, that's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.